Hello, what's up everybody? How's it going? Welcome to another video of tutorial series PHP Specials. I'm your host Anwar Ali and today I'm here with a new topic, and the topic is integrating Bootstrap templating with your HTML or PHP file. I know this sounds kind of designing stuff rather than PHP, but some of my friends commented that the layout I'm using in my tutorials are really simple and really basic, and maybe I could use some Bootstrap at least to make it look a little bit more cleaner. And I thought, instead of using Bootstrap, why don't I just make a video which could be helpful to most of the programmers who know really very less about designing. It could be a good way to clean up their pages, and also maybe they could get some basic concepts of CSS. To be frank, I'm not a designer by profession, but yes, I know a little bit of CSS and the way to use different frameworks of CSS like Bootstrap, and the use of and cleaning up some basic stuffs of CSS. So I thought, in order to save the time, I'm just using one of my old PHP tutorials, and that was searching through the database. It's in the same playlist of PHP Specials. It was, I guess, second or third video. So we created a file where we grab data from the database. We created a search form, and we type in here some keywords and hit search button, and it searches for the entries right from the database and lists over here. This is what we done, and today we'll be designing the page. We'll be using Bootstrap in order to make this page look a little bit cleaner and clean. But it would have been a good idea in order to learn CSS, a little bit of CSS before using Bootstrap. But I think it's okay to start with Bootstrap, because in order to use Bootstrap, I don't think we need to know much of CSS. But I hope you have a basic concept of CSS at least. Okay then, let's get started. We'll be covering two things today. We'll be designing this form, and we'll also try to design this table. And we'll not cover much of the CSS or Bootstrap, like layouts and making things responsive and all those things. Just we'll covering some basic stuff, and maybe tomorrow we can make this a learning process of Bootstrap in two parts maybe. And the first part will cover some basic things that we generally use in our PHP development, like forms and tables. Maybe tomorrow we can also cover some navigations and making layout responsive. So let's make it divide the video into two parts. The first part today will be covering forms, and the second part that today will be covering, in the first part we'll also be covering tables. And let us discuss about navigations and making things responsive tomorrow. I hope that will be easier for us, right? Okay, then let's get started. First of all, I have just to make things clear, I have already opened some of the examples that Bootstrap have given us. We'll be using this shortly, but first of all, I want you to go to getbootstrap.com and hit on download. If you are not if you want to change the version to some previous version, you can change it from here, but let's get started with the latest stable version, which is 4.0. So we can click on download and start downloading the 4.0 version of Bootstrap. And here is the zip file that I just downloaded. I want to open the file, so let me just extract the file first and copy whatever is inside this. So let me just copy the folder and paste it inside PHP Specials maybe, right? So let me go to my amps www PHP Specials, where is PHP Specials, and I'll just paste the Bootstrap 4.0.0 over here. But instead of having this long name, I just like to rename it and call it Bootstrap. Okay, so we have Bootstrap folder. Let us just browse this through Sublime. So if you see, now we have Bootstrap folder over here, and we also have so many of the things over here. So all we need, if you go to the dist folder of Bootstrap, dist, you can see there's a folder called CSS, and there's a folder called JS. Today we might not need JS, but tomorrow we can use it for navigations and some of the animations and maybe drop downs. But today we just need CSS folder. So inside CSS there is a file called bootstrap.css or bootstrap This is what we'll be using today in order to make our form and make our table look a little bit cleaner. So in order to link this bootstrap.css to our HTML file or PHP file, what we need to do is I generally put it on header, like I use the tag link. So you need to do this. So if you type link, you will get some few attributes which is necessary for linking a CSS file to our HTML file. So link is a tag that we use, and this attribute is must in order to use CSS files, external files in our HTML file. So you need to have this attribute. You may or may not have this attribute, it doesn't matter, but it is always a good practice to define a type attribute for scripts and CSS. So these two attributes you need to define before you mention the path of the CSS file. So rel equals to style sheet and type equals to text/CSS. So after giving these two attributes in link tag, what I need to do is I need to define the path of the CSS file that I'm about to use. So we are about to use bootstrap.css. So let us just give the path of bootstrap.css, which is inside bootstrap. So bootstrap slash dist slash css and then bootstrap.css. So this is how we link our CSS file to our HTML or PHP file. So now after doing this, our file is now linked with bootstrap.css. Now we can use different classes provided by Bootstrap. So generally what Bootstrap does is Bootstrap has already created lots and lots of classes now and lots of designs for different tags. For example, this is a design that it has already done for HR. Now if we just use HR tag, the HR tag is already designed. For example, let's say between form and table I just want to use HR tag instead of PR and BR. So HR tag, let's see what it does. Okay, so if we go back to our news and refresh it, you can see because of Bootstrap some of the font size has already changed, and this HR tag now is already designed and has some spaces above it and have some spaces below it, and a clean straight line has been drawn for us, right? Okay, so generally we have a div, we have a class called container in Bootstrap that gives a little bit of margin to the left and margin to the right of our body, which will give some spacing between left and right and make our body look a little bit cleaner. So what we can do is wrap up everything inside container first. So starting from here, let us say div and give a class called container as a wrapper of entire scripts inside our body. So just after our body, give a parent div called container, with the class container, and you will see that now if you go and see the design, you will see some spacing has been given to the left and to the right. Okay, so this is the first thing that we did. We just gave an equal spacing in the left and in the right just by one class, that is container. So this kind of task has already been done by Bootstrap by already designing some classes, some tags. So all we need to do is just use those classes to make our page look cleaner. So let us just continue and see what more Bootstrap provides us in order to make our page look clean. Okay, now if you see, the form is also a little bit cleaner now and a little bit bigger also. So but since we don't have spacing on the top, what we can do is we can just add a heading that says search news h1 and search news. Okay, so it also has some CSS for h1 and it is a little bit just simple, but now we have some spacing on the top and the page looks like this is really something that we can search something on, right? So now let us design our form. So in order to make the input tags like 100% width, you can just give a class called form-control, which will also allow us to use many kind of effect in our input tag, and also make the input tag make the width of the input tag 100%. And you will see once we hit refresh, now the search form is from here to here. So it is not really good to have 100% width input tag, because it is just too much of length for something for us to type some keyword, right? It is just too long. So what we can do is it is always good practice to use form control, but I didn't want to cover so regarding the grids. But if you see, there are the Bootstrap has designed its CSS, or have mentioned its CSS in such a way that it is trying to divide the a page into grids. So according to Bootstrap, there are 12 grids in a container. So from here to here, we can divide the grids into 12 groups. So starting from here to here inside the container, so this is our container which has spacing a little bit in left and a little bit in right. So there are 12 grids here, and those grids are known as columns. And it just like in table we have a row, and within the row there are columns. Bootstrap also has given us the similar concept that we can have a div known as row, and within a row there we can have 12 columns. So let us just demonstrate it. So we have a form. Let us give a row inside a form. So div class equals to row. Let us just ignore everything for now. Just give some space for row. Okay, just to make things look a little bit cleaner. So we can have a row, and within a row we can have columns. So let's say div class equals to columns, and to represent column we need to write col. Now another thing that we have to do is we have to mention the size of the column, because as I said there are 12 grids. So we have to write the columns in such a way that the addition of the columns is finally equal to or less than 12, because we cannot exceed the 12th grid. As I told, there are only 12 grids in the bootstrap, so our column length should be equal to 12 or should be less than 12. Okay, so there is one of the way of writing the column is col-md, which means medium, which we can discuss later. But right now let us just say this means this is a way to define a column, and we should give the length of the column. Let's say we want to give length 5 to the input. So we have a column with length 5 and another div with the length 3, maybe col-md-3. So we have two columns, 5 plus 3 8, which is less than 12, and that's fine, but it should not ever exceed 12. Okay, so after giving the columns we should always clear, and in order to clear the divs, because since these are floating to the left, so it is a good practice to have a clear fix after the columns. And in order to add clear fix, we just need to give a class in a div that says clear fix. Okay, so this is our first column and this is our second column inside our row. Now what we can do is we can add this input, we can add this input to the first column and add this input to the second column. Now let us see how our form look like. You can see now it only took length 5 out of 12, and this is taking length 3. Maybe it is still here, but since the button is small, so it is not taking 100% of width. So the form control, what it did was it gave the input 100% width, which is the 100% width of col MD5, which is 5 by 12 of the entire container, and the input inside 5 by 12 is taking the 100% width from here to here. And now let us design the button. Now there are lots and lots of classes given for a button, and let us try some classes. So first class, the most basic, is just btn. Just give a class btn to your button, maybe your anchor, or even your input type equals submit, or input type equals button. So anything, whichever you usually click. So if you give a class button to something that is clicked, anchor or button, you will see that it itself gets designed in a clean way. Okay, so it is looking much cleaner now. Now in order to make your button a little bit colorful, we have different options like btn dash primary, which is a little bit bluish type. So give a class btn, give a space, and give btn primary, and just refresh it. Now you can see our button is blue. Similarly, you can give like btn dash info, and you can see that it is blue, but it is some kind of greenish blue, light blue, right? So info for light blue. Now you can give success in order to make it green, okay, like this. So you can say danger to make it look red. So this is really easy approach. Just by giving class, you can design your button, you can design your forms. See, I have written no CSS at all. I'm just working around with playing with class names. So I just give form control over here. I'm just giving row, container, col MD5 for columns inside rows, col MD3, and I have given some classes to the button, that is btn space, which means adding another class, and another class is btn dash danger, and we can see we have a really nice design of form. Let me just use default for now, just make it look grayish. I just like white designs. I prefer white designs instead of colorful, but it really depends. Now let us go towards our table. See, the form design, I think it was really easy. We just covered it. Now I want to move towards table. So in order to design your table using Bootstrap, and the basic most thing that you can do is just remove the attributes that you just gave to the table, like border and width, because we'll be controlling all these through Bootstrap. Now we will not be using attributes of border and width and background, things like that, when we are using CSS. So just remove these attributes. Now all you need to do is just add a class called table. That's all you need to do. Now see how our table looks like. It looks like a little bit cleaner, broad, and with proper spacing, right? But there are also lots and lots of ways to make this table look much more cleaner. For example, if you give a class table and say table, another class called table dash bordered, bordered, table dash bordered, and try to refresh this. Now you can see this table is well designed with a clean border instead of the border we use, border equals to 1, which was thicker, had some 2 lines in it, and it looked very dirty. Now you can see with our CSS, just we have a clean thin border that makes our table look really clean. So this is how you give borders to table using Bootstrap. Okay, so now let's try some other class, table dash striped. Okay, now let's try to refresh this. Now you can see we have a really cool table with stripe followed by gray and white, gray and white, gray and white. So you can see that I'm just playing with classes, and all these design are coming in front of me as if I'm a professional designer. It doesn't sound like professional designer, but for those who are really new to designing and CSS, it might be a great achievement for them that they are designing such a clean design just by using some classes. So I hope this video was helpful for you to start your design and make it look a little bit clean. Maybe tomorrow we can discuss on on like a proper way of defining different grids of Bootstrap, separating your designs to left and right and giving different columns and giving different rows to the page, and also creating some navigations and all those, making them responsive and look good in even in mobile devices. So these things we'll be covering today. I hope this will be a good way for you to start designing your PHP pages from right now. So I hope you will try these on yourself and give me your comments on how how you experience Bootstrap and how did you like it. So if you like the video, comment on it, subscribe it, and share it. And if you have any questions or any confusions, you can mention it in comment. Feel free to mention any kinds of complaints or any kinds of, say, questions. I will be more than happy to address them. I'll see you tomorrow with a new topic on Bootstrap. Till then, have a nice time, have a nice day, have a nice Bootstrap day. Thank you.